West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another quick edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm on half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Mashal's name Patrick Hewitt, and Santoki will be back next week. He's away at the moment, but he'll be back for some content in the next few days or so. This episode has been in the drafts for a bit of time. I was supposed to drop it much earlier in the week, just didn't get round to it. You don't know already how life goes, but wanted to just spend a little quick 10 minutes or so just talking about the recently completed Women's Super 50 Cup. First things first, congratulations to Trinidad and Tobago women on their victory. They came second in the table, actually, but they won the final against Barbados women, having bowled Barbados women out for 70-odd and then chasing that down with 7 wickets to spare. Just going through the table itself, I mean, it ended... when did it actually end? It ended about... When was the last match? The competition ended on March the 7th, so literally only a week ago, to be fair. And if I just read the table out to you in terms of the final finishing positions, Barbados won the actual regular season. There was only 5 games, remember. So Barbados won the regular season with 35 points, Trinidad second with 32, Guyana third with 28, Jamaica fourth with 18, Windward's fifth with 18, and then Leeward's last with 14. But then everybody got one more game. First played second, third played fourth, fifth played sixth to just work out the placings. And in that final between Barbados and Trinidad, Trinidad and Tobago beat Barbados women to win the competition overall. But I'm going to be real. And I know Shane Dietz had his press conference at the start of last week, or at some point last week. That's where he had a bit of a set to. I'll say it wasn't his fault, but Cricket Forum had a bit of a set to with him. But to be fair, it wasn't a stellar competition. I went back and crunched the numbers, right? There were 7 matches. There were 7 matches where different women's teams, because it wasn't specific to one team, different women's teams posted scores less than 100. Now, bear in mind, this is a 50-over competition, and on 7 different occasions, scores of less than 100 were recorded, right? I could go even further, and if we're talking about scores over 200, that basically didn't happen. In fact, I'm going to try count it now. I should have really done that beforehand. So we had 1... See how much I'm scrolling here. 1... 2, 3. 3 scores over 200 in the whole competition. And there's no point in trying to mince our words. That's not good enough. It's just simply not good enough. If we're trying to develop the next generation, if we're trying to develop women cricketers who can challenge the current top 15 or so in our international side, we didn't really see enough in this competition. There were and Shane will obviously have said in the press conference what he feels about the competition and where he's trying to take the women's team forward. And obviously next month we have the World Cup qualifiers, so it was quite pertinent that we had this competition, knowing that the World Cup qualifiers start next month. But did we see anyone really put their hand up from what I call the lesser... I don't want to call it the lesser class is the wrong phrase to use there, but those outside of the top 15, did we really see anyone put their hands up to say, think about me, Shane, think about me and take me to Pakistan for the World Cup qualifiers. I can really make a difference. These are the top 5 run scorers in the competition. Rilana Grimmond was the top run scorer, 234 runs in the competition. Rashada Williams was second with 214 runs. This is like I say, 6 games maximum for anybody. Kishona Knight, 177. Janilla Glasgow, 162. And Casey Knight, 156. Now, immediately we can remove Kishona and Casey. They will never play for the West Indies women again, you would assume. And I think Shane Dietz even made reference in the press conference to say we've kind of moved on from them. Both had kind of said that they were retired from West Indies women. I don't think he's going to make any overtures to bring them out of retirement or re-engage with them. So the fact that two players who aren't going to be considered for West Indies women were in the top 5 run scorers, that's already concerning in and of itself. It was good to see Rihanna Grimmond be the top run scorer. She's only 20. West Indies West Indies under 19 women's international. That's the example of somebody putting their hand up, right? She batted in the top 3 and put her hand up and said, "Consider me," or at least, "Look, I'm trying to do bits." She had 2 not out scores, 2 50s, highest score of 72. It's not groundbreaking, but she's putting her hand up. She's young. Like I say, she's only 20. I like that. She's putting her hand up and saying, "I've top scored in the competition. Shane, what about me?" No issue with Rilana doing her thing, right? Rashada Williams, obviously, she's had a few injury woes. It was good to see her come back for Jamaica women and be the second top run scorer in the region. I'm still worried about Rashada's strike rate, but I think there is always room for somebody who can be a bit of a consolidator in the kind of mold of a Shemaine Campbell. So it was good to see Rashada back in the run. She, of course, is a former West Indies women's international, but like I say, she'd had her injury woes, but good to see Rashada back on the runs trail. So it was good to see her put her name up. And of course, Janilla Glasgow. Shane has spoken at length about Janilla Glasgow. Janilla, again, young, former West Indies under 19 international, and then another one who she's part of the West Indies senior international side now. She's considered to be part of that squad of 15. So good to see her in the top 5 run scorers. But should we have seen some other names? Those of you who care about West Indies women's cricket, get at me in the comments below. Who wasn't in the top 5 run scorers that you think it was disappointing to not see them there? So someone like, for example, Kiana Joseph, she's a West Indies international. Why was she not in the top 5 run scorers? It should be asking. I'm not saying that means she shouldn't play for West Indies women, far from it. But you know my stance already, or what the Caribbean Cricket Podcast stance is already. If you are a senior international, whether men's or women's in the Caribbean, you're supposed to come back to domestic cricket and beat up on the domestic cricketers. So it was disappointing to not see the likes of Kiana Joseph in the top 5 run scorers, because she should be dominating. Did she? Which leads me to question: did she go into the competition with the right attitude? Did she see it as a competition to say, "Let me dominate it"? Or did she go into the competition thinking, "I'm already secure in the West Indies side, I don't need to prove anything"? Food for thought. More worrying for me was the bowlers. The top bowler was Keela Elliott for Barbados women. She's 37 years old. Some will say, where the hell did she even come from? And what's more, why is she the top run scorer in the top wicket taker in the competition? 37 years old. Anisa Mohammed came out of what I thought she'd retired. She came out to lend her experience to the Trinidad and Tobago women's side. She was the second top wicket taker. Afi Fletcher, 4th top wicket taker. Like, these are, and then Karishma Ramarak, 5th top wicket taker. So you, on one hand, you say Anisa, Afi, Karishma, they're all like seasoned West Indies international, but apart from Plafiana Millington, 27-year-old from Guyana, the off spinner, who actually, to be fair, looked good, did we really see anything with the ball that made us sit up and take notice? As ever, spin to win when it comes to women's cricket, certainly West Indies women's cricket. Is there a place for Millington? Get me in the comments below. Is there a place for Millington in the side? I doubt it, because we have so many spinners in the West Indies women's ranks already. When you look at the senior West Indies women's side, right? This is the team that played Bangladesh. Let me show you how many spinners are on the side. Hayley Matthews, Afi Fletcher, Karishma Ramarak. That's already 3 overs of spin you're getting. 12 overs of spin. You're getting. Even Kiana Joseph can bowl spin, right? That's just from one of the ODIs. There's so many spinners that are already locked in to the senior side that I find it hard to believe that even with Plafiana Millington's good performances for Guyana, who would she even step in front of? So there's some questions there. And then I went and looked at who had the standout innings in the tournament. Shane had kind of set the women the challenge before the start of the tournament for someone to go on and score big runs. Edwards hit her first name's gone out of my head right now, you know. Anyways, she hit 88 not out. But again, she's 35 years old. Rashada Williams hit 86. Shemaine Campbell hit a 77 not out. Renice Boyce, former West Indies international, hasn't played since 2021. She hit a 76. And obviously, Liliana Grimmond hit a 72. So there were, I mean, those were the top 5 individual innings of the tournament. Would have loved to see someone score a century. But then how many people could realistically score a century when there were so many scores under 200, 7 scores under 100? Like, you're asking a lot for somebody to score 100 when they're not even chasing much to begin with. So it wasn't a vintage tournament. It wasn't a tournament where I was watching highlights and watching some of the ESPN Caribbean games, which were covered with like God's name's coming out of my head. Was Joel Manning on comms for that competition? Obviously, Alex was on comms as well for the competition. So they gave it a proper billing. They had like the full like commentary team for the live ESPN games. So they really like cared about the standard of the tournament, and the women's game got more, the domestic women's game got more international eyes on it than it normally would do. But that's all the more worrying then that we didn't really see performances that warranted paying attention, or enough performances that warranted paying attention. I don't know. I don't know if I should be critical, you know. I don't know. That's why I wanted this one to be a quick one. I didn't want to do some massive deep dive on it, because I'm more intrigued about what do people think in the comments below. What do you think about this particular competition? Who stood out for you? And the thing is, though, any criticism you've got, you've also got to keep it in context. Haley wasn't there. Deandra wasn't there. Chanel Henry wasn't there. They were all playing the women's IPL, and well done. Big up Haley. Obviously, she won another tournament. Big up Chanel Henry, who was like one of the best impact players in the tournament. So good to see, particularly for Chanel, a next West Indian woman getting an international chance at the highest level. And the reason why I say those 3 weren't there, because one of the ways that you kind of raise the levels in domestic cricket is if your best players are playing the domestic cricket. And if no one's there to set levels, what is the level that everyone else is trying to reach? Like, if you don't see levels in each of, like, if you're playing a game and you have no concept of what real levels are, what is ultimately mediocre looks like it's levels in comparison to everybody else. But that's not Haley's fault. Obviously, women's IPL, like, she can't turn that down. Deandra can't turn that down. She should never turn that down. But maybe that impacted the kind of quality and strength in depth of the tournament. So like I say, several different things there. There were some people who raised their hands. I'll wrap this up now. Big up Grimmond, big up Rashada Williams, big up Janilla Glasgow, big up Plafiana Millington. But that's it. That's it. Or did I miss something, people? Get me in the comments below. Did I miss anything? What do we feel about the state of our game after that Super 50 tournament? And of course, like I say, we've got the World Cup qualifiers coming up. So all hands on deck for that particular competition, because we need to qualify for the World Cup. Obviously, all the big guns will come back for that. Would you say that the 15 is the same 15 that played the ODI series against Bangladesh? Or did you see anybody in our domestic Super 50 competition that made you sit up and think, let's bring them in? Let's bring them in for the West Indies ODI side. Listen, I'll be Mashal St. Patrick here at One Half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. As ever, like, share, subscribe. All the social media handles, loads of content coming next week. Look out for it. And you can support us on www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket. Live show tomorrow, as ever. So lock in for that. Loads of stuff coming next week. See you all very, very soon.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.